Mary with INTV, and on October 23rd, Healthy Choices Caring Communities partnered up with the Wauseon Police Department to hold its first ever community conversation event. At that event, the Wauseon Police Department did a presentation on the common types of substances that are being abused in the Fulton County area. INTV was lucky enough to have the Wauseon Police Department back in the studio to talk about that presentation, and I'd like to introduce who I have with me today. Next to me is Brian Courtney, next to him is Kevin Chittenden, and next to him is Keith Torwitt. Hi guys, how are you doing today?
Morning.
Thanks for coming in. So does the Wauseon Police Department commonly encounter youth substance in Wauseon?
Yeah, we do. We run across it on a weekly basis.
Okay. And how does it usually present itself?
It usually shows up by a teen being found under the influence of a drug, reported into us by the school, sometimes by parents or other teens that are seeing this type of stuff, and sometimes it's just the police finding it right out on the streets.
Wow, okay. And is Wauseon different than the other surrounding areas as far as teen substance abuse or commonality in that?
I would say no, it's no different, just mainly the percentages. Wauseon being the county seat, we might see a little bit higher numbers, but it's the same throughout the county.
Right, there's a little bit higher population here, so
Correct, yeah.
we're probably going to run into it a little
And
more.
in different areas of the county, you see different substances being abused more.
Right.
You see one substance being abused more in Swanton, where it's a little closer to Toledo,
Sure.
than you would see in Archibald, which is a little bit closer to Fort Wayne or Defiance.
Okay, that makes sense. Absolutely. So, what are the most common types of substances that you find in the Wauseon area used by teens?
The most common, I would say, it starts off with tobacco, alcohol, and marijuana.
Okay. So let's talk about a little bit about tobacco. So what are the dangers of tobacco?
Well, tobacco, it's cancer causing.
Sure.
It's addicting. Starting at a young age, usually the younger juveniles, teens, start using tobacco. That's the early stage of starting to use drugs.
Right.
It's got the nicotine into it, which can cause cancer.
Absolutely. And then what are the signs that a youth might be using tobacco?
Being very secretive, hiding stuff from parents, keeping their door closed in their bedroom, that type of stuff. And also the smell of tobacco or masking agents, wearing a large amount of cologne or incense or potpourri or stuff like that inside their bedroom.
Yeah, absolutely. It has a really distinct smell, so that would probably be the first sign to look for.
Air fresheners in the room, blades in the power thing. They normally don't have that, and they're getting out, windows open. It's winter time, and they got their window open. Why is the window open during the winter time?
Right.
That's a good sign.
Absolutely. And then let's talk a little bit about alcohol. What are the dangers of alcohol that you can talk about?
The alcohol leads to poor decision making, kind of lowers your inhibitions. People might be more likely to take riskier chances than they would not under the influence of the drug. It is still a violation of law to drink while you're underage, and also alcohol poisoning. Drinking too much can lead to death by alcohol poisoning.
Absolutely.
Being a teen, the per se limit is a lot lower than the adult level is.
Sure.
And they may think they drunk one beer, but they still can be arrested for an OVI, which will lose their license. Being a teen.
Absolutely.
Compared to an adult.
Right, because it's illegal if you're not 21. So.
Correct.
Absolutely. And what are some of the signs that your youth might be experimenting with alcohol?
If they're change of friends,
Absolutely.
if they're defiant towards you, if they are going to friends' house, they spend a lot more time at other friends' house than at home. Red, glossy eyes. If they come home late at night, look at their eyes. The odor of alcohol. That's a major sign right there.
Sure, yeah. Absolutely. I know you guys had talked a little bit about their eyes and the way that they follow you. And is that something to look for as well? Do you think that's something parents could easily detect, or is that more just for police officers?
I mean, parents, if they knew what they were looking for, and if they want to ask us how to do it, we'll gladly show them how to do it. It's just the nystagmus in the eyes and reading their eyes. That's what we as law look for them.
Mhm.
Hopefully that drivers.
They say the eyes don't lie, and
Yeah.
that's when we talk about the glossy, bloodshot look, the inability to follow smoothly with your eyes, following objects.
Absolutely. I think as parents, they kind of just need to follow their gut instinct. If they feel something's off, probably is
Probably
something
is.
off. So, okay. And then let's talk about marijuana. Can you tell me about the dangers of this drug?
Marijuana, it is addictive. Studies have shown that the chemical inside of it does cause addiction. It can cause short, long-term memory loss, poor performance at school. Reaction time does slow down, like with alcohol. It does impair your decision time and stuff like that.
Absolutely. So what are some signs that parents could look for in case they suspect their teens experimenting with marijuana?
I would say there's secretiveness, staying in their room. They can look for the change of friends. That's a big sign. I see a lot that kids growing up, all of a sudden they were an athlete, dropped out of sports, and now they're moving into a different crowd. And most of the time, parents, their instincts are right that something's going on. They need to be very observant of their children and their actions.
Sure. So with all three of these drugs, is it common to see their grades drop and?
Yeah, that's one major sign is if you're normally an AV student and then all of a sudden you start going to BCs and then C and Ds, it's a very good indication that something has changed in their life, and it could definitely be alcohol or marijuana or different types of activities like that.
Right. Okay, so what other types of activities does the Wauseon Police Department see associated with teens that are using these types of drugs? What else are they doing that's...
These type of things, they lead to truancy, not showing up at school, getting your schoolwork done, curfew violations. A lot of times these kids are out late at night in order to sneak away from the parents or to be secretive, that type of thing. Theft is a big thing. They have to steal stuff to get the money to pay for these drugs and alcohol. And risky decisions that they normally wouldn't make.
So, probably just activities that are out of their character and stuff like that.
Things that your child would never do before are doing now. That's a sign there's something has changed, that there's something has changed in their life.
Absolutely. Okay, so what are the most important things that the Wauseon Police Department is doing to prevent teens from being involved in these types of activities and these types of drugs?
Well, once a year, the school and the SRO, School Resource Officer, put on a drug awareness week where they go into the classroom setting and speak to the students about drugs and the harmful effects of drugs and things that they can do to make better decisions in their life, not to stay clear of the drugs and alcohol, and give them an opportunity to come up with a good alibi or excuse to excuse them from the drinking scene or the alcohol scene, the drug scene.
All right, that's very good.
The drug education, ourselves have partnered with the Healthy Choices Caring Communities. We've been giving these presentations. We've been speaking with parents and teachers about signs to look for to kind of show that maybe these kids are having some problems with substance abuse and are under the influence of these drugs. And when we're able to educate the parents and teachers to these signs, they may be able to step in and try to stop it before it becomes worse and a bigger problem.
Absolutely. So bringing awareness of parents, and then also just to the kids, the effects of the drugs and how it can harm you and ruin your life, honestly.
And we've also increased our enforcement efforts. We have a drug team, 6-man unit, that when we make a traffic stop and we find drugs, we pass on the information and they start working off of it to go back to the source so we can get to the source and try to prevent it from getting to the kids.
Yeah, that's important.
Our approach to it is not just enforcement. We're looking at both prevention, enforcement, and then after the fact, the child is on the drugs. What do we do at that point?
Right.
How do you get the recovery services involved? How do you get help for them? How do you get rehabilitation? They made a bad choice. Now what do you do? Our job is not just the enforcement; it's the safety of the citizens. And I think the safety is trying to prevent them from doing it in the first place. If not, then we have a job to do and we will enforce it. But even after that, we will work with the person to try and get them help, as long as that's what they want.
Yeah, absolutely. That's important. That's great. And I think a lot of times teens maybe don't realize that they want the help, but once they realize that's not the path they want to go down to. So
A lot of times
that's really
it's-
important.
Police interventions, a lot of time is needed in order for that person to realize they have a problem and they
Yes.
need to seek assistance.
I hear about that all the time. So what would the Wauseon Police Department encourage people in the community to do to discourage the use of these types of drugs?
I think the first thing the community needs to do is to become educated and learn about these signs that they can see in the teens. Once they do that, then I think they need to talk to these teens and be real with them. Inform them of the consequences of what their actions is, how dangerous these drugs are, and what this stuff could lead to.
Absolutely.
And not that, even if they had used drugs in their teens, that they need to be honest with their child, that the consequences they faced, and to show them that they can do much better without using the drugs. And I would say truthful to the kids about that.
Absolutely. Did you guys get a chance to see the video that was aired that INTV did with the what every teen wish parents
Yes, we
knew? Did you agree with most of the things that the kids said on there? Just being honest, not being quick to anger, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it was very, very true.
Yeah, and the big thing about, you have to be a parent, but you don't have to yell at them or downgrade them or something. Talk to them and be honest and be open and kind of have a nice conversation about it, to where the kids will be willing to come back to you if they have more questions or having some problems or concerns. You got to be open and you can't just yell at them and downgrade them like that. I know that was one of the things I heard in that tape that you were talking about.
Yeah, viewers will get a chance to see that tape at the end of this, but what I thought was really important was also, talking to them before it happens, sitting down, having a calm conversation with them before anything where they would have to make a decision like this would happen, and then you're preventing that yelling situation or that mad situation because you may have had a chance to prevent them from making the wrong decision. I think that's really important.
And we have to stress, you can't talk to them once.
Exactly.
Daily, weekly, every other week. Any chance that you get, you have to reinforce it. Because kids live for the moment.
Exactly.
And what you told them in one moment doesn't necessarily translate to the next moment and the next moment. You have to keep reinforcing it until it becomes a habit for them.
True. And I think parents have a good opportunity to do that if you know your kid is going out with their friends or something before they leave, sit down with them real quick. Not in a judging or, not like you're expecting them to do something bad, but just reminding them, make good decisions, call me if you need anything, that kind of stuff.
And I think it's even communication with the other parents where they're going.
Yes.
Communicate with them and find out, hey, are you going to be home tonight? My son and daughter is coming to your house. I want to make sure there's an adult there. If there's not, then you have an idea there might be something going on. So it's communication with your children about what they're doing.
Another great tool as like a conversation starter would be sit down and read the newspaper or watching the news or during a TV show. If you see some type of risky behavior or something like that, talk to your kids about, hey, how do you feel about this? How would you handle this situation? I think that's a great way to really open up the conversation without, coming at them in like an accusatory tone.
Yeah.
It's just sitting around the dinner table and talk about what happened in the news or watching TV on the couch. It's something you can bring up and into a nice smooth transition. And like the chief said, talking, it brings it up a little more often so that you're not only a one and done type of thing.
Absolutely, I agree with that. And also on the video, the kids had talked about having parents be genuinely involved, not just because, they feel like they need to watch every step they make, but they really honestly want to know who your friends are. They want to know what you're doing. They want to know who you're hanging out with, where you're hanging out. So I think that's really important as well. So anything else that's important for people to know about youth substance in Wauseon? You guys want to cover?
I think the main thing we need to get out there is that it is occurring in Wauseon. It's not just a big city problem.
Sure.
It really is out there, and it really is kind of staggering numbers as far as how much drugs are out there and how many teens are using this. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So just making sure you're talking to your kids and helping to prevent anything before it happens. And you know, you're preparing them to make that decision when it comes to it, because if you don't talk to them before and they come to a point where they have to make a decision and they don't know what to do, they might go with their friends because their parents never sat down and established those rules and that important stuff. So,
And if they want to, they need to get involved. If they hear of something, if they hear of an illegal activity, if they know something's going on, call us. You don't have to leave your name. If you don't want to call the police department, call 211. A member of First Call for Help will pick up. They will get the information to the proper agency.
okay.
You can contact the State Highway Patrol Post, Office of Criminal Investigation. Whoever you need to call, just call, make the call, let us know what's going on. We may not be able to stop at that first time, but at least we'll be notified and we'll know that there's something going on that we need to address.
Absolutely.
We might not even be able to make arrest that night, but if we have a patrol car in the area, it might prevent an incident from happening at a party.
Exactly.
Cars are driving by every 5 minutes. The party's not going to happen there.
Right.
So that, you know, getting it to us, we can be more vigilant of the report.
Absolutely. And I know one of the big questions that came up at the community event, a lot of parents wanted to know about Facebook and that kind of stuff. And I know one of the questions that came up when I was sitting there listening, can you report stuff that's on Facebook? Is that evidence, you know?
Yes, it is. It's evidence. It's posted on the internet.
Okay.
We take reports like that all the time. I know the schools get calls of issues that started outside that could carry over to the school. And the same thing with us. We might get a call after hours, but it really was a school incident, and then we pass it on to the school resource officer who speaks to the school staff and pass it on to be more observant of an issue that could be happening at school.
Sure, because I think Facebook is a good tool that parents could use to monitor what their kids are doing, because you know, they need to be keeping track of what they're saying and who they're friends with on Facebook.
Exactly. They definitely need their friends.
Yeah.
As a parent, they need to watch their friends.
Yes, and the way that our society is moving, you know, they're more and more likely to be on Facebook younger and younger, unfortunately. So parents really need to pay attention to social media that their kids are using. So, all right. Well, if there's nothing else, I just want to say thank you guys for coming back in. I'm sure people are going to be very interested in this topic, and I also wanted to let viewers know that there will be another community conversation, if not in Wauseon, in the surrounding area, so keep an eye out, and hopefully you can make it out. I really think it's a must-see for parents, so thanks for watching.
I feel that parents and adults influence teens' decisions about alcohol and drugs, mainly by leading by example. I believe that parents and adults are basically role models from the time that children are young up until they're even becoming adults, and so I think that's a big factor.
I think the biggest way that parents and adults can influence teens' decisions about alcohol and other drugs is by the example they set.
I think that parents influence their kids mostly by their actions. Like for example, my parents don't really do drugs, and they haven't really like talked about drugs being bad, but like I can tell that they disapprove of stuff like that, and I don't do stuff like that. My parents don't. I don't really see any reason to.
In my opinion, to make it easier to talk to parents about alcohol or other types of drugs is for the parents to just stay calm and be understanding of your kids and let your kids know that even if they do mess up, you're still going to be there.
I think it'd be easier if they didn't assume it in the first place, and if they were calm about it, but understanding, but yet still strict about it.
I feel like parents being open to talk about it, whether or not the teen is using alcohol or drugs, just being open and not criticizing or being judgmental about it. I think that's a very big thing.
If they feel like their parents would talk to them about it instead of yelling at them about it, I feel like it would be easier for them to approach them and talk about it.
What is working for parents is definitely talking to their kids early and letting them know that, hey, this is wrong, and also talking to their kids about peer pressure, that you don't have to be doing what all the other kids are doing.
You also see some parents that are very open with their kids, that, you know, nothing is off limits to talk about. They can just have a very open discussion. parents, trust their kids within, reason and pay attention to what's going on in the kids' lives and really are involved with their children.
Being understanding and listening, and definitely setting a good example, because I know that personally I believe that actions speak louder than words. So if I see my parents not doing drugs, I'm probably going to live to their standards of that rather than trying to make up my own of, well, maybe it's all right. I don't want to just stereotype parents, but from what I've heard, a lot of parents like to shout about stuff like this and get mad at their kids if they have been involved in them and using drugs. And I don't think that they should do that, because all shouting is going to do is it's going to alienate your child from you. They're not going to want to listen to what you have to say. It's just going to make them resent you. So definitely shout less and listen more.
Parents could definitely not assume or be judgmental of their kids. They could be more understanding and make sure that you're setting a good example in the first place.
I think they could not assume, because I think a lot of them do assume that they're doing that just because they know someone else that is.
I would say parents should be more involved with their kids' lives. With the society that we live in today, there's not really a whole lot of emphasis anymore put on home life and actually being a family. Families anymore just kind of seem to be a bunch of people that coexist in a house, and I feel like that's a big problem with the way that people live today.
If parents talk to their teens about something once, I don't think it will stick. I think that they should be reminded daily to be smart and make